Going into playing Resident Evil 6 again, I was actually excited. So when the game first came out, I got on PS3 and played it for 30 minutes with a friend, and we both acknowledged we weren't really having fun, and it didn't feel like playing Resident Evil. So I stopped there and didn't try again until 2020, when I decided to replay all the mainline Resident Evil games in chronological order, and with that, actually playing through Resident Evil 6 all the way. This time I plan on playing the whole game again, but after starting Leon's campaign, I kind of decided at the beginning of it I immediately would just play his story and Ada's campaign and getting ready for the hype of Resident Evil 9. But then after playing through Leon's campaign, I ended up having so much fun that I decided to go back to the original plan and play all the campaigns again, especially since it didn't feel as long as I remember it from the first time I played it. And honestly, just letting go of expectations that comes with Resident Evil games helps me see there is still a fun game here. It's just very different. It's so weird because it just doesn't feel like a Resident Evil game. Like, RE5 had more action to it too compared to the games before it, but RE5 at least just felt like a more action-packed RE4. But RE6 feels like a completely different game. From its interface, to the combat mechanics, to the zombies literally jumping and vaulting themselves at you as they attack, I feel like this game would be better labeled as like House of the Dead. Like maybe a version of House of the Dead that was made to feel more like a console game than a on-rails arcade shooter. Which, with how linear this game is, with how it constantly has on-screen markers for where to go next, it makes this feel like an on-rails game with the illusion of choosing where you go. At least this is how I feel with playing an hour into the beginning of Leon's campaign. Another thing that adds to this vibe is the overuse of QuickTime events. Before, you just did them in most cutscenes, but now they're what's used for getting out of the enemy's grasp. It just feels like this would be a great Resident Evil game for the arcade. And to top off the cheesiness, Leon, at least at the beginning, feels like an actor just doing a toned down Keanu Reeves impression. It doesn't feel like Leon to me. I love the action movie cheesiness in Chris's campaign with every action movie cliche imaginable that made me laugh more at it ironically than I did watching The Room. Now, to get ready and hyped for Resident Evil 9 releasing, I've been playing through the RE Engine games in number order, and so going from playing RE4 Remake and learning how RE9 is said to work with going between horror and action gameplay with Grace and Leon respectively, it makes me excited to see if they plan to remake 6. I can see if 9 is a success that 6 will be remade to be closer to how 9 is, almost as if 9 would be a test run to find a way to remake 6 successfully. So playing through 6 right now, and having this in mind, it does have me more excited to imagine how 6 would be done if it was to be done like this, and as well as building more hype for 9. One thing that RE6 certainly has an award for is the cheesiest and just most cringe moments of the series, at least out of the mainline entries. These can range from the logic loopholes like the store owner who has you kill all the zombies just to close the shutters that you really would have prevented the zombies in the first place from entering his store from the beginning, but yeah. And then you have the goofy drop kicking some characters do, like how crazy it'd be to just shooting up zombies with Leon and see Helena come out of nowhere drop kicking zombies. Just what? All the over-the-top action movie moments with Chris' campaign, like the opening scene in the bar with every patron being a BSA, they're ready to show him how much they missed him. I'm sorry, it's just so cheesy how they all just like stop and it's like, I don't know. And of course, every campaign has its little Fast and Furious bit where you have like a little car chase where it's a race against time or you're doing a high-speed chase. For me, it's still crazy how Leon's campaign was meant to be a horror campaign because it's never terrifying, and if anything, just an action campaign trying to be scary. One random thing I notice from time to time is the game does have some good music sprinkled throughout, but usually in points where you're doing so much you wouldn't really notice. Like when playing in the cave in the 3rd chapter of Leon's campaign, I paused for a moment to answer a text, and then chilled and listened to the music for a minute. And some of the music does a great job at capturing the vibe of the original PS1 trilogy. Jake's story is definitely the most interesting, except it's better played in the game order, because the way I played it when I first played the game is I played it in the chronological order where I played his story first. And so I find that I enjoy it more now that I'm playing it in the actual order that you're presented to play these campaigns, which is Leon, then Chris, then Jake. His campaign in general is the most interesting in that it combines the other two and is actually a little less cheesy, but still has that action movie cringe, but not at the level of Leon's wannabe Evil Dead campiness and Chris's over-the-top Fast and Furious vibe that feels like all Chris cares about is family without ever saying the word family, but the vibe is definitely there. But Jake's campaign actually feels like the successor to Resident Evil 5. I feel if they remade RE6, it should mostly just focus on Jake's story with maybe just a little instances of playing Leon and Chris kind of like how you do in RE8. The story tries to give Jake a character arc, but it feels kind of forced. This is definitely something that can be developed a lot better in a remake. Chris somewhat gets one too, but this is more that the start of the arc isn't really developed as much in my opinion, and so that it can be something developed in both a remake of RE5 and RE6. Maybe RE5 sows the seeds for what's to develop for Chris in RE6. Maybe there's more hesitation seen in him with killing Wesker, which can be developed more with remakes of RE1 and Code Veronica. I kind of realize the perfect marketing opportunity Capcom has for themselves after RE9 is out in remaking all the games that develop the rivalry between Chris and Wesker, and maybe Resident Evil 10 will be a follow-up to this one with Chris and Jake. Also, in a remake of RE6, they can continue the pursuer mechanic and maybe do something even more next level with Ustanok. I don't know, the main guy that you fight throughout Jake's campaign. I don't know how to pronounce his name, you just read it in files. But with him pursuing Jake and Sherry. Of course, another big thing of potential that can be worked with on the remake would be developing Jake and Sherry's relationship more. It's cool they did bring together the estranged children of Wesker and William Birkin to work together and, I don't know, kind of like their fathers, but instead of trying to destroy the world, they work together to save the world. One random criticism I have is when playing Sherry at any time on the co-op door parts where some of the doors you have to wait for the other partner to get there, just going there and clicking on to show that you're ready to go, like 90% of the time Jake will say, "I know what I'm doing," and just like yell angrily, which doesn't really make any sense. Like, why did they include that? It feels like it's because of his troubled past and making him a rough around the edges person. They diminish that with having him lash out at times when it makes absolutely no sense. I understand trauma can cause harsh reactions and just be unknown to the person with those reactions, but I feel realistically that wouldn't be a time that you would have that kind of reaction. Now, if I press circle button again, causing Sherry to yell at him, be like, "Get over here," and him saying that makes a lot more sense. But not as the reaction to her just getting there and saying, "Hey, I'm ready when you are." It just doesn't make sense. But that's just a minor complaint. But with the other so bad it's good stuff in the game, it just kind of at this point it becomes annoying when you're playing through the campaign that keeps happening. So I guess when playing this again in the future, I won't play as Sherry, I'll just play as Jake again. Now, Ada's campaign was very mixed to me. The first chapter is annoying because you're forced to do stealth, but the game really isn't made for stealth gameplay, so I just ran past the enemies to proceed, which I ended up kind of just doing through multiple sections of her story because playing it after playing the other three, it didn't have the same kind of fun to it for me. Some parts were okay, like the puzzle sections in it, and I generally enjoyed how it tried upping the ante on everything, like having the stealth serve as another level of horror, and then had its extra action movie cheese with things like the helicopter chase. But it feels like the responses she had to everything was so forced. Like, she's just trying to make herself laugh because she's just thinking and not talking to anyone. Like, I feel in a remake, this is another thing that can definitely be fixed, because it just seems like lazy writing, and I'm hopeful with how the remakes have portrayed Ada, it would be fixed, because in RE6, she just comes off completely narcissistic, which to an extent she is, but it's very cartoon villain to me. And I feel she's really more grounded than that. In the end, I'm really happy I played through RE6 again. This doesn't only have me excited for RE9, but also with the future, with where Capcom will go from here, with the potential they could work with, and knowing that they're thinking about this stuff and how to achieve the balance between horror and action better in RE9 than how they did in RE6. As they did mention directly in the marketing for RE9 in their little showcase they did. It has me excited that they're planning to possibly go this direction that can redeem the legacy of the series, and who knows, maybe a remake of 6 can be so good that the ironic thing will be the game that once was known as the worst entry in the mainline series can maybe become the best remake. Anything's possible.